It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, welcome to the Andy and Rem Show. I believe this is episode 107. And as always, I'm joined by Mr. Remington Steele, who should be seated just below me here. Hello there.
Hello, guys. Welcome.
Your screen, of course, partially covered with this high-tech sharing image setup that we've got here. So, very exciting week. The world has been abuzz, it's safe to say, with one particular news item. All the outlets have been covering it, and that is, of course, the return of the Andy and Rem Show. What kind of reception have you noticed from the adoring public?
Well, I think the quickest way to find out is to go to your channel and see comparative videos on you, because when the Andy and Rem Show videos appear on your channel, there's like 5 times as many viewers.
Also 5
phenomenal.
times as many dislikes, it has to be said.
It's all publicity, you know. It's all, what do you call it? It's reactions, isn't it? It's engagement. That's what we're here to do: engage you, entertain you.
Who are we engaging right now in the chat? It looks quite packed in there.
Oh, mate, it's going off. We've got Steve Evans. We've got Graham Rigg, the Rigster. Mickey Genver, Brad Jimenez, Stu Gibson, Bazooka Drew Rambo, Raphael Madge, Sean Acton Blake, Owen Lee from Down Under, Skeleton Flower, and many, many more. Steve Evans, Raving Daving, and Marcel Jakubek.
Yeah, so folks, we've got a couple of very interactive segments for you on tonight's show. One of which you can start thinking about now, and that's going to be Remington's favourite segment. He insists that we feature it in every episode, and that is Nerd Confessions. So if you have a confession that really shows us how much of a nerd you are, you can post that in there, and we will analyse it as best we can and maybe rate you on the nerdometer, the nerd scale.
Exactly right, Andy. And Andy, you are the Witchfinder General, and part of your role is to hear people's confessions and then pass judgment. So I will relate your confessions to the Witchfinder in person, and he will absolve you or punish you accordingly.
Well, if I'm able to absolve everyone of their nerddom, you could argue that it would be a boon for our health. Anyone who's not played Vermintide or seen us play Vermintide is going to be a bit lost with some of these impressions, aren't they? Not only that, we also have the #1 rated segment. So good, GW ripped it off shamelessly and still haven't credited us. That is, of course, What the Hell Is That? It's a very spicy one tonight with a brand new intro song. So you can look forward to that. That's going to be fun. Mr.
Right,
Remington,
Oh, sorry, go on.
you've been slaving away in the recording studio.
Yeah, I spent all of Sunday between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. making this theme tune. And then it was sent to Andy, and I didn't get a reply back until like 9 p.m. But, you know, I knew it must have been good because, you know, when Andy likes something, there's usually just a stoic silence. So I think you're going to love it. It's pretty awesome. It's definitely going on the album. We've also got some huge GW news to share with you. Before anyone else has heard it, Remington is the man on the ground, the man in the know.
The man with his
behind
ear
the
to the
seat.
ground. Ear to the ground, finger on the pulse, eye on the sky. Anything else? Any other body parts that you've been checking on the latest developments with?
I am the sky. What are you on about?
Have you got your nose to the ground? Does
Oh
smell
yeah.
travel better through the ground, or have you got your nose to the grindstone?
No, so I wouldn't call it the
But you are a
grindstone.
hard-nosed businessman, so would you perhaps damage a grindstone?
I am a hard-nosed businessman. In fact, we're going to also be having a new section to the show. It's called Remington's Millions.
Yeah, you can
In which,
follow Remington's financial advice to become a wargaming themed millionaire. I'm not sure how successful that segment's going to be, and you can't hold us legally responsible if you lose all or most of your money investing in any of Remington's crackpot schemes. Just so you know. I don't know whether that holds up legally, that disclaimer there.
well,
It's fine.
they may be volatile investments, but you've got to roll the dice and hope you don't get the one in life. The more you roll it, the more chances you have to get the six. How I see it.
So the first thing we're going to look at, we've got some lovely images of the miniatures that Mr. Remington has painted recently. And we're looking at these Nighthawks. I believe these Nighthawks are on eBay for about £3,000 at the moment, aren't they?
3,000 Australian dollars, maybe, but definitely not £3,000. They look damn good. I mean, I have to admit, they do look really nice on the screen.
Yeah, we're looking at
Yeah,
your black coach here, the new black coach, with extra kind of ghoulish, ethereal goodness on there.
yeah. I've just noticed there's a bit of glue hanging off the side of the coach. It
That's
looks kind of
glue.
like, yeah, it's kind of like slime.
I thought there was some kind of like ectoplasm oozing out of the side of the coach.
Yeah, that was a complete accident, but I think that's a happy accident. That's staying. Very enjoyable miniature to paint. Very, very delicate as well. So how I'm going to pack that when some lucky viewer uh, owns this collection,
You
and it
assume
is.
it's going to be one of the viewers that buys it.
No, they're all cheapskates. They ain't going to get it. But you never know. You never know.
And we've moved on here, and this doesn't look very attractive with your Black Games Workshop case in the background, I'm afraid. But we're looking at pictures of, there's a banshee there, perhaps, with this kind of
Oh,
pose going on.
these are some of my Nighthawk heroes. You can see that the color scheme just is the same, and that's a first for me.
How did you
Yeah.
achieve the colours on the cloaks? Is that a series of different dry brushing and washing techniques there to get the very light
Look,
faded colour down to the purple?
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I mean, GW's color scheme was exactly the opposite. It starts off light at the bottom of the cloak and then goes into a dark. And I don't know. I don't think that's how it would happen. I think when the smoke first comes out, shoots out, that's where it's strongest, and then it kind of fades into white. So I did mine the opposite way. Also, I saw Tyler Mengel's video tutorials and decided to do exactly the opposite of what he preaches. And I think I've achieved better results. So there you go.
Controversial. Now, if you want to, you can actually put a link to your eBay for these guys in the chat if you want, and I'll allow it. I think it automatically disallows links, but I'll allow it to pass. And if one of the viewers buys it during this show, I think we can throw in a free digital copy of the Andy and Rem Show album.
I think we could do that. Yeah, for sure. That would be a nice little bonus. But yeah, I hope you like them anyway. I spent quite a long time doing these, so there you are.
Well, we've got some slightly more human-looking things now, and they have very large pectoral muscles, these kind of barbarian-type bearded folk.
Oh, you've gone
Who are
to...
these fellas? They've got a wolf flag as well going on there.
Oh, these are the Chaos Marauders. So these are also up in the shop. Oh no, they've actually been sold. Yeah, they've gone.
You sold
Sorry.
these already? This is the last chance to look at them then?
Yeah, last chance to look at them. So yeah, they're just Marauders really. I think I went through a phase, like probably many of us have, of you get a bit of everything, don't you? You just there's just too much to like.
Like a pick and mix.
And yeah, and the plastic crack habit just takes over, and you end up getting a hodgepodge of models from different armies, and well intentioned, but a couple of years down the line, I thought, why have I got these Chaos Marauders? I do really love them, by the way, and I would like to have a kind of a marauding army, but I thought, no, just focus, Remington. Focus on the 3 or 4 armors you want to have complete, because you know what? You can always paint more. So I thought someone out there might want some Marauders. So I put them up for auction.
Sean says, I love how this show has kind of become an eBay ad for Rem. Lol. Well, when he sells them all, then it won't be... There will be no more advertising then, because there won't be anything left to sell.
Yeah, this is true.
We're back onto the Nighthaunt now, and these are some very ghostly-looking scythe-wielding creatures.
Oh, you talking about the Death Scythe Harridans?
It's quite a contrast here between the purple and the white on them. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, there's no contrast paint used though. It's all au natural acrylic paint.
So you haven't used any contrast paints yet, have you?
Never.
You'll give in eventually. They're worth a try. How
Right.
have you done the basing on these guys as well? Because that looks quite tasty.
Okay, really, really simple. Actually, I shouldn't say that, should I? Because I'm trying to flog them. No, actually, very, very simple. I've just used one of the Citadel technical, I won't call them paints, but technical pots. Just use what I had, really. I think not Agrelian earth, though. I used the Astra granite, let it dry, and then dry brush various colours on top to give a sort of a dandruff-hewn soil effect.
Is that what the Nighthaunt do? They just spread dandruff throughout the land?
Well, you know, you gotta assume they're very dusty, aren't they? You know, these are.
You would think if ethereal creatures can carry dust, would dust adhere to them, or would it just fall through, or is it like a spiritual, ghostly dust that they emit?
Well, you know, most of them are ghostly, but the skulls and the hairs are definitely, you know, real. The real
You could
deal.
get some kind of dust gathering there, then, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean these were in their former lives actual nice Sigmar worshipping ladies, and they were in fact healers. But then Nagash cursed them, chopped off their hands, and replaced them with scythes.
That's just like Nagash to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, so instead of healing hands, they became they were kind of like Edward Scissorhands.
But before we look at the next picture, Stu says, you have chaos models because deep down you know chaos is the true path. Is that in fact true? Is there part of you, some kind of subconscious area deep within your soul that's kind of clawing its way to the surface, encouraging you further and further towards the ruinous powers?
There will always be a place in my heart for chaos, because one of the first miniatures I ever had was, what was his name? It was he was a Chaos Knight, and there was a little comic they used to have in the old White Dwarves. Yeah, it was a Chaos Knight. His name will come to me.
Timmy.
No one remembers. No, it wasn't Timmy. There was the Chaos Brothers that came with it. There are actually 2 models called the Chaos Brothers, and then there's this Chaos Lord, and he had like his weapon was like an axe, but it was like a bird's skull and a beak, and it talked to him. So
Owen says Crom.
no, just remembered it was Caleb Dark. Caleb Dark. That's going to take you back to like 1987, I think, something like that. But yeah, Caleb Dark. So yeah, it's all about balance, Stu, isn't it? I think I will have a Chaos Army at some point, but it will be sort of a quarter or a fifth of my entire collection for sure. At some point.
Daving is playing Vermintide while listening to the show. So he's playing Vermintide with no sound on. That sounds very difficult.
That's impressive, man.
How will you know when the witch hunter has found medical supplies?
If you don't know what Vermintide is, I suggest you join us or go to Andy's channel and watch us playing Warhammer the End Times Vermintide. If you don't like rats, and you especially enjoy watching them getting chopped to pieces, and you like seeing Andy getting mauled by rat ogres,
that's very rare.
It's pretty fun, really fun to play. Quite stressful, and you'll hear my death scream on a regular basis when I get killed.
And it's not due to my failure to protect him. It's usually through his own ability to run off on his own. We're looking at the black coach again now from the other side, and you can see the the bones on the horse, which are
Yeah.
somehow visible beneath the kind of white, ghostly exterior. So it looks kind of transparent. Is that just with careful shading?
Yeah, I mean the bones are a real physical thing, whereas everything else is like ethereal. So the wood of the coach is real, but the things that are animating it are ethereal. So
It's a good job you've got there with the shading to create the illusion of the ghostly kind of surface being transparent, so you can see the bones through it. That's quite a nice touch.
like that, yeah.
That's
Perhaps
got
it
to
was
boost
just
the price by at least 50.
did I make it sound like I knew what I was doing, or yeah?
Yeah, not so much now. And now we've got some more of your chaos dudes by the looks of it.
Okay,
So
yeah.
how many of these did you end up with?
Oh, it's just
You
a
said
small
they've
red
sold
one.
now, didn't you?
I only sold 14. I did have 2 extra ones because when you buy the box, you used to get 16. But my ex-girlfriend, I tried to get her into painting, and she kind of ruined to beyond repair. So there was only 14 that I could actually sell with any legitimacy, you know.
Raphael says that character you were talking about is a worshipper of Malal, the 5th chaos god that is no longer mentioned.
Wow, that's got to be a nerd confession right there. The fact that you know that.
It's got some elements of nerddom lingering in
Impressive,
there,
man.
definitely.
Thank you, thank you. Malal, will he ever rear his head or her head in Warhammer again?
I'm sure you can remember everything from back then. What was the deal with Malal?
No, I don't. I don't remember him from back then at all.
Well, we'll have to do some
No.
research on that. We're looking at some more of your ghosts now.
All right.
And there's the black coach again. Let's see if we've got anything new here. Ooh, we've got some like skeleton-faced people who are flying right towards us in a very horrifying manner. It may be the same ones from before, actually, with the scythes for hands. But very, very tasty looking from a different angle
Nice,
here.
nice.
And there's a lot of pictures of the coach.
Yeah. Well, it is the centerpiece, isn't it? It really ought to be.
It sure is. It's much better than the old black coach. The old one, even in the previous, the old world, that black coach was looking a little bit dodgy next to some of the crazier newer stuff like the Mortis engine, for instance. You put those two next to each other and the black coach did look a bit silly, didn't it? With its little
Yeah.
skeleton horses. Very static.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it's a great model. I think it's pretty powerful in the game from all reports. But its base size is kind of hefty. But you know, it doesn't actually matter because the model flies anyway. So
We've got a huge unit of your ghostly people now in front of your black Games Workshop carry case there. Looks to be about 20 of them there with a nice big green flame as well. Very tasty.
30 of them, in fact. 30. Yeah. 30 chain ghasts.
Some more ghosts. And oh, here's some. What is this? It's like a bride of some kind with some flowers, and there's another guy holding his head in his hand there. Very interesting.
Yeah, that is the Briar Queen and her thorns. She was a Night Vault character. Yeah, she's in Warhammer Underworld's game. So they're her minions, which are basically chain ghasts. I even said that right. Chain ghasts? No, I can't even. Night Hawk.
Oh, and here's
the
here's a
basic
big
minion.
kind of. This is the big floating bride-looking one, isn't it? With the veil over the face and the ghosts swirling around it.
Andy,
How
can you describe your ex-girlfriend that way? You know, this is a woman you left standing at the altar.
Was it the altar of Sigmar?
With all her bridesmaids, and they haven't forgotten. In fact, they're waiting till Doomsday to get you.
Well, that's a terrifying prospect, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, it's Mrs. Havisham, isn't it, from Great Expectations?
And I assume this one is going to be hanging around waiting as well, with the noose on its back.
Yeah, that is the Lord Executioner.
So you actually know the names of all these units, but you're still getting rid of them.
No, I like them. I don't know. You got to be detached from things in life. Hey,
well, you're definitely detaching yourself from all these, aren't you?
Definitely. I've got into like a nice routine where I can basically put together and paint an army within a year, 6 months to a year.
Looks
So
like some hex wraiths here.
hex rates indeed. Yeah.
Old school, kind of. I mean, they're
Yeah.
pretty old now, but at the time, it didn't feel like they were old. And
Do
some
you know
endless
what?
spells are here as well.
Yeah. Once you get your color scheme down, you can really kind of get a good speed going when you're trying to get an army done.
By the way, we've got a lot of calls here for the return of the Forest of Rem at some point.
That'll happen as soon as I write the theme tune.
It will happen. Don't worry, folks. We've got 2 people clamouring for it, and 1 person so far saying, no, do not bring back the Forest of Rem. So I'll take that as a ratio.
You can't please everyone all the time, can you? Owen Lee says Remington is going to be singing at Andy's wedding.
Okay.
I think if he obviously pays me enough, I'd consider it.
We have totally finished with your pictures now. So,
Okay.
shall we do, before we go on to looking at the Bone Reapers, I think we should do one of our legendary segments. I think we should get in a bit of what the hell is that? What do you think?
What the hell is that? Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir. Enjoy this.
So, folks, what the hell is that? There will be an image on your screen displayed after the... In fact, I'll play the theme music while you can see the image at the same time. Let me just check this is all lined up correctly. Don't want to accidentally spoil it. So, there it is. I'm going to put it right next to Remington's face there so you can look at it. This is comprised of 3 miniatures that are currently on the Games Workshop website. Not technically for sale, because I think everything's out of stock at the moment because of the pandemic, but 3 miniatures represented there, and while you're digesting that and guessing, coming up with your guesses, we're going to play the theme song and the new video for What the Hell Is That?
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigma Speed or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangled squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.
And there it's done. What a musical display there.
Wow, who was singing that, Andy? That was kind of impressive, man.
Well, I'm assuming you got in some kind of outside help for that. That sounds a bit beyond your vocal range there.
Yeah, that was me doing an Elvis impression.
So, do we have any guesses in yet? It doesn't look like it. But there are definitely 3 miniatures represented there. I'm going to enlarge it, in fact, so that people can get a better look at it. So this is the first time that Mr. Remington is seeing it as well.
That's right.
And have you got any ideas there?
What am I looking at? It's like a hammer on a chain and a stick.
Essentially, it is a hammer on a chain and a stick. But what are they from? That is the question. Anyone who gets it successfully will win, I think, possibly some nice audio tracks from the show. That would be a nice prize, wouldn't it?
Yeah, in MP3 format.
Yes.
It's kind of cool, Andy. You can magnify it. Can you make it real big for us?
I'm going to make it even bigger for a minute here, just so people can have a nice, proper look at it. So now most of the screen is obscured. And while you're staring at that, I'm going to prepare the solution, which is going to be hidden for now. I'm just going to get that ready, because I can actually, when it's revealed, I can show everybody the 3 miniatures that went into it. Which is going to be very exciting.
I don't actually know. I'm supposed to know. That's what the song says.
You certainly are.
Hmm. That's a
Have
good
we got
one,
any
Andy.
guesses in yet?
Let's have a look. I can't tell. Mickey Jennifer says, I still haven't received my Goblin Green paint that she won last week.
Well,
This
that's on you, isn't it?
is true, but you didn't give me her address, so there you go. Owen Lee says, wow, he's very specific. I think he might have got this right, you know. Is it, Andy, the dwarf hammer, a flagellant, and that whip guy from the corpse cart?
I can exclusively reveal that one of those is correct.
All right, Owen, well done. That's 1 out of 3. But which one? We don't know.
Bum bum bum. Which one indeed?
Bazooka J Rambo says Mallet's Mallet. I can promise you it's not Timmy Mallet's Mallet, but nice try. Mickey Jemba says Croquet Elves. Bazooka J Rambo says I was paying more attention to the song. Now I don't blame you because that is a hit, man. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you right now that the one that is correct, it is actually the corpse master from the corpse cart, the stick.
Okay, you're too kind to us, Andy.
Yep. So that one was somebody already got that one. Owen got that. So if Owen can get another piece, that would be very impressive. But 2 more. We've got the chain and the hammerhead. Anyone else going to get it? We've got 28 people in here right now. Surely somebody recognizes these pieces.
The corpse cart is such a wonderful model, isn't it? But it's really ghastly. You know, can you imagine if you had guests coming round for dinner and they stumbled upon your hobby room and then found a corpse cart in there?
It's better than them stumbling into your corpse parlour and finding a real life corpse cart. Oh, we've got a guess from Stu who guesses Bloodthirster, Chaos Night Flail, and Corpse Cart. I can tell you that 2 of those are correct.
Wow. Well, the corpse cart's right.
Corpse Cart is definitely correct. In fact, I'm just going to tell you that the hammerhead is actually from the Bloodthirster, so Stu's got that one right. But it's not a Chaos Knight flail in the centre. It is a chain from something, but what is it from? I'd be impressed if anyone gets this, actually. It's quite difficult. This central piece, very, very difficult indeed. Because it's the hardest piece to guess. If anyone can guess where this chain is from, I think they'll just automatically win. That's fair enough, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. There's a little hand on it, just next to the flail head. Is that a hand?
I don't think there's a hand there.
Oh. Okay.
We've got some very inaccurate guesses. You know, I don't think anyone's going to get this chain. I think it's too difficult. Shall I just reveal?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to reveal that it is... Dun, 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 dun. It is a Bloodthirster, a Mangler Squig chain,
I was going to say
and the Corpse Cart. Look at that.
Oh man, well done, Andy. Yeah, you've bamboozled the audience yet again.
They certainly were bamboozled. So I'm going to get rid of that and get rid of that. And you know what? I'm actually going to play the What the Hell Is That theme song quietly while we continue with the show.
Nice. I'll have to send you the instrumental. That would sound really professional then, won't it?
So I'll turn that right down low and people can just watch that in the corner. Okay, so the Bone Reapers.
Is that what's next? Or should I do the
is.
Games Workshop news bit?
Oh yeah, let's do that while people are listening to this theme.
All right, I'll have that lined up, and you just tell me when you're ready. Yeah.
Go for it.
What now?
Give people the Games Workshop news item.
Oh right, are we live?
We sure are.
Okay, wow. Sorry, I thought you were still listening to the theme tune then. Okay, right. So yeah, I think Warhammer fans are going to be delighted because Games Workshop have made an announcement today, and as a result, their share price grew by a phenomenal 10%. If you don't know much about stock market and stuff, that is a lot. And considering the times we are living in, with the Roni virus and whatnot,
Considering they can't sell much at the moment, that's pretty good.
Oh, well, funny you should mention that because I'll read it off the GW website. Our web store, gamesworkshop.com, will be taking orders again in some territories from May the 1st. As ever, the safety of our staff is our number one priority. We're opening up limited operations and only in warehouse locations where we've been able to put safety measures in, blah, 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 blah. Staff will remain suitably separated to avoid Nurgle's pox, and they'll be maintaining the highest standards of hygiene. All right, so if you live in one of the listed territories, Games Workshop will be able to ship to you soon. And if you've been suffering from a lack of, crack in your diet, plastic crack I'm talking about, all right, you don't worry no more. Even though eBay has just been getting hammered, right, during this lockdown, and you put anything on eBay at the minute and it will sell. So if you're in the UK, you're good. Finland, Ireland, Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, France, Spain, Japan, Poland, Sweden, Germany, Austria, Belgium, rest of the world, rest of Europe. Wow. They're going to be updating that list every day. So it didn't say Australia, but I guess that counts as rest of the world, right? Sorry. We're not yet taking orders in the following territories: Italy, Australia, New Zealand, USA, and Canada. That kind of sucks for our American, Australian, Canadian friends, Italian friends.
Australians always seem to suffer when it comes to anything wargaming related, don't they?
It's just so far away. I do think in time, though, as the Games Workshop brand increases, they will, no doubt order, create some big warehouse in Australia, because it's nearer China. So I suspect that this news may be related to the fact that China is reopening up again. It's just a hunch, but that's kind of exciting. But that is not all, because where is it? They also put that they're going to be starting to distribute from the warehouse to their other stores. The sort of the independent Games Workshop stores, stockists, the independent stockists.
Yeah, because a lot of the stockists and the retailers that have remained open have struggled to get some of the GW products in the last few weeks.
That is correct, Andy. But there's some really splendid news, because they're going to be giving all the independent stores a unique miniature, which is some kind of Katachan. Did I say that right? Katachan fighter, who looks brilliant, and they're giving the model free to all the stores, and the stores can sell them to customers. But Games Workshop are giving them to the stores for free. So it's a nice thank you to those independent stores, isn't it?
Is that the miniature that looks like something from Predator?
Yes.
Yeah, very nice. I've seen that. Very tasty. Yeah. I'm sure people have seen that around on Facebook already.
And yeah, not only that, I think if you order a virtual coupon, or if you order from the store £50 or more, up till midnight tonight, I think you get £5 extra from GW. So, it's kind of cool times. Games Workshop never used to sort of give any kind of special offers or deals, but they've become benevolent in their old age.
Yeah, not quite as benevolent as they were back in, when would it have been? The mid to late 90s, when they used to have like 3 for 2 deals on box sets.
Really? I don't remember that.
Yeah, I remember as a young lad heading into Games Workshop to start my Orc and Goblin army and being amazed that my £60 or whatever it was I went in with could stretch to way more than I thought it was going to. That was when I got like Azhag the Slaughterer, a giant some goblins, snotling pump wagons, spider riders, all that good stuff.
Wow. Were they doing like the regiments of renown for 3 for 2?
I don't know if the regiments of renown were out then. It may have been just pre-Dogs of War.
Oh yes. Wow, that's pretty cool, man.
Back in the day.
Well, that's the latest from Games Workshop. I guess that's kind of the news you wanted to hear. So just to reiterate, May the 1st be with you.
Indeed. Now, before we move on, have you got anything on your desk right now that you're painting?
Yes, I have.
Do you want to show it to the world, and then I'll show everyone what I've been working on as well? Not necessarily... Okay. Well, none of my stuff is going to be Warhammer related, but it's still interesting.
Well, last week, I haven't made much progress, to be honest, because I've been really busy working from home. I've just about finished... Oh, God, that's not going to work, is it? Hold on.
Is it going to stay upright?
Does that work?
It's not quite focused yet. You need to move the wood closer, I think. Is it going to focus? It's not looking like it's focusing. You may need to bring it even closer. Get it right up in the camera so it has no choice but to focus. Pull it into submission. There you go. Stop right there. Okay, we can see him.
So I showed you him last week. I haven't finished his base yet. So I'm undecided on what colour to do that because there's so much green on the model. I'm a bit hesitant to do the base in green. And the next model is his partner in rhyme and crime.
Closer.
Get him in focus.
Closer. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Basically, it's Friar Tuck. So yeah, I'm working on those wonderful old school Bretonian characters.
Have you got a full army that you're going to keep, or are you going to sell all those?
I don't have a full army, but I have some select Bretonian models. I've got a bunch of knights, and I've got the Grail Relinque.
The Grail.
Yeah, fabulous model. So yeah.
Very nice indeed. I can show the world what I've been working on, because they are quite hideous. These are actually finished apart from bases. Obviously, these are not Warhammer related though, but I'm going to show them to the world now. I don't know if Mr. Remington's going to be able to see them. I'll give him a view as well. Let's get a light on here. Okay, so how close does it have to be before it'll focus on this hideous creature? It doesn't want to at all. Oh, there you go. Lovely. Oh, so there's his hideous face. And I'll show Mr. Remington on the other camera that we're using for this high-tech setup here.
That's horrible, man. I mean, look, this is the kind of stuff that goes on in Andy's brain, man. It's just disturbing.
And then I'll switch it and show the world the other one that's completed now. Oh, there he goes.
Oh, it's just horrible.
Hideous creatures. These are Kings of War giant heads put on the legs of a Hellboy miniature from Mantic.
I mean, I love the concept, Andy. Like, you know, they could double up as like pink horrors, right?
Quite easily. They're a bit big, but probably.
I mean, like I said last week, like the Sons of Behemoth, they could be like the Giants' minions.
And the other thing I'm working on right now is... Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to hold it at this level first. Let's give Mr. Remington a quick look at it. There we go. And now the world can see it is a hideous lava rock monster. This is the Hellfane for the Abyssal Dwarves, the Kings of War. And I've finished the lava and the rock on it.
It's kind of like a war mammoth then, right?
It's like a big rhino made of rock and lava.
Oh.
And you can see he's even got butt cheeks there.
Wow. Who rides this beast?
Well, there are 3 guys actually that can ride on it. So the leader is this guy who's not painted too much yet. Just a bit of gold and a beard for now. I think he's just got a mustache actually. But there's 2 guys with beards there. They're going to be on it as well with little guns. So I've been trying to talk you into trying out Kings of War recently. And is that something that's tickling at you at the moment?
Andy, you're very persistent, aren't you? Like, I'm just
Yes.
trying to tell you, I'm trying to like slim down my modeling collection. There you are, just trying to pull me back in, not just into Warhammer, but into bloody Kings of War.
And
It can't happen just yet. There's a few cool, there's obviously a few cool models at Kings of War, but yeah, I'm not fully converted yet. But you know what? I've got a halfling army on square bases, ready to roll with that when you're ready. I mean, I've had one game of Kings of War. I've got a 100% win record.
because what I'm thinking we can actually do, I've been setting up my attic with a webcam pointing down at the table to play games of Kings of War over the internet. So if you'd be interested in having one of those, then I'm sure that can be arranged soon.
Okay. Well, how long does it take? Like about an hour or something? 2 hours?
It shouldn't take more than 2 hours, unless it takes me that long to get you familiar with the rules, but it shouldn't do because they're nice and simple.
It's basically just push forward and roll dice, isn't it?
It can be if you want it to be. You might not win, but you can give it a go until you've familiarised yourself with it, and then maybe by the time lockdown's over, they'll actually have the Kings of War halfling rules out, which I'm looking forward to because they're due sometime soon.
Yeah, man. So, guys, got a wonderful announcement to make. We're going to have a guest next week, and it is the editor, no less, of the #1 Warhammer magazine on the internet. It's called Mortal Realms magazine. And Fohammer, who's in the chat now, welcome Fo, is going to be joining us. He has got the lowdown on almost every forthcoming issue of Mortal Realms. If you don't know what Mortal Realms is, it's the magazine that Games Workshop have been putting out every week, and you get loads of free models in it. So if you're new to the hobby, you've come to the right place, man. He's going to be an awesome guest. And I found out he just lives down the road in Nottingham as well. So perhaps he could join us at RemCon.
RemCon, the little side event to Andy Palooza, by the way.
RemCon is it's the ultimate gaming contest. It's the ultimate hangout for the winners in life. And if you're not one of those, then we have another one called Andy Palooza.
Andy Palooza is, of course, where the A-listers hang out, and then RemCon is in a little side. It's more like a tent attached to the main building, really, which is a bit of like a flappy tent in the wind. It's not the best. If it rains, you might want to come inside. If you're A-list enough to get into Andy Palooza, that is.
I think if you imagine that the Warhammer World is open from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m., Andy Palooza takes place from 10 a.m. to about 11:30. Then we get some lunch, and then the main event, obviously, RemCon. That's when that takes place. So, a whole day of entertainment there for you.
Potentially. We've been talking about it for about 5 years now, but anyway.
No, we did have a RemCon, didn't we? We did have one. It was with Amy Snuggs and me and you versus Amy and her boyfriend. And yeah,
I'm not sure if that qualifies as RemCon.
No?
I don't know. I think you need more than 4 people.
More like that's more like an Andy Palooza, isn't it? That one.
I don't know. I think Andy Palooza suggests you need at least how many people for a Palooza? 50. I think RemCon you could get away with maybe 10 people. I don't think you can have a Palooza with small amounts of people there. That just doesn't sound right.
Well, anyway, Fohammer's going to be a wickedy guest, and I can't wait for him to come on the show and give you all the lowdown. He knows his stuff, about 40k as well. Talking of Necrons, in fact,
yes,
isn't it time for Nerd Confessions?
I suppose we can do some nerd confessions right now, and then after that we can look at these Bone Reapers that have been sitting on the screen for the last half hour.
Yeah, let's do the Bone Reapers because I've forgotten how the theme tune goes for.
Okay, that'll give you some time to think then. So we're going to look at some of these Bone Reapers because they were released quite a while ago now, but you may have noticed, unless you were living under a rock, that there weren't any shows for about 18 months. So anything that came out in that time we didn't see. So we're looking at this very strange looking undead creature who's It's kind of heroically posed with both arms in the air, holding some kind of big ghostly apparatus and a big weapon there. What's your impression of these guys, Mr. Remington? Because I don't think we've spoken about them before on the show.
They just came out of nowhere, really. There was a little preview clip. There was like a 30-second long kind of video where you heard like a dark ancient crypt opening and a voice saying, we must have bones, and then a desert landscape, and people thought this was going to be the return of the Tomb Kings. Okay, then there was like deathly silence, and then we heard of something called the Feast of Bones, which was going to be a new box set. And
I thought that was the other name for Remcon, but apparently not.
No. Yeah, so the Feast of Bones was the box set coming out featuring 2 armies, and you know what I mean? I think everyone breathed a huge sigh of relief to know that it would not include any Stormcast Eternals. And behold, it did not. It had an ogre army in there, and these guys. So it wasn't Tomb Kings, it wasn't Nighthawk, but it was a sort of a new faction of like elite undead. What did I think of them? I think me, like most other people, just thought, hold on, it just looked like Necrons with swords.
That is a legitimate criticism, potentially there.
But, that is doing them a disservice because they are really detailed models and really they are really cool. Having said that, if you look behind me, you might be able to make out the box set itself, Feast of Bones. So let me just grab it. Give me a sec.
Oh, off he goes. This is some live action here.
Put these babies back on. Right. So, Andy, did you get your mitts on one of these?
I have not.
You might be wondering, how come Rem is holding the box with one hand? Is it because he's very heroic and muscular and strong? Or is it because half of this army has been sold on eBay?
I would guess it's because half of the army has been sold on eBay. That seems way more likely than Remington being a force of extreme strength and power.
Yeah, well, on this occasion, Andy, you're right. Yeah, so it's actually a pretty damn good deal, because it helped me finish off my ogre force, basically. So that's what I'm doing. I'm finishing off my ogres, and yeah, I sold my Feast of Bones half. All excited because I think I struck a good deal on eBay for it. Heaven knows I almost made a profit, but then I realised the person who bought it was from Australia. So I got suckered. I got suckered by an eBay trap there. And anyway, someone in Australia got a great deal. You've got some.
Well, eBay do have the facility for international shipping now, where you don't have to actually do anything. You just send it to the eBay distribution center, I think, and then they send it on and charge any extra money that's required, I think.
Oh, now you tell me.
Did you not select that option?
No, I mean, that's all good. I mean, what did I like about the Ossiarch Bone Reapers half? The new models were really cool. They had a couple of the old big Gribblies. What are they called again? Can't remember what they're called. Oh, the Morghast Archive. I don't know. I never really liked those models.
You know, people cynically think that the only reason you agreed to talk about the Bone Reapers is because you could tie it back to some of your eBay sales.
Come on, guys, don't be like that. Yeah, but there was a character. There is a character called Vok Mortian, which for a good while you could only get if you got this box set. But I think they've been released separately now. But yeah, it's an elite army. Really, really detailed, especially like the armor and the facial features. And then soon after that, some more models were released, and I think the pièce de résistance was the general of this army, the king of this faction.
Would this be the one that's sitting cross-legged on the pelvis of some other skeleton?
No, no,
Oh,
no,
well,
no.
that's kind of the most exciting one, if you ask me. We haven't seen anything like that before. It's like a hollowed out skeleton that he's sitting on with his legs crossed and a ghost coming out of his chest.
It is pretty. Do you think he looks like he's a gamer, doesn't he? He's probably got a joystick there in one of his hands,
That's the
controlling.
ultimate gaming chair. Can you imagine sitting in that on your PlayStation or something?
That is a great model, to be fair. Look at the expression on his face. Yeah. Actually, I could. Do you know what? I could get into these. I better not
Oh
stare too
dear.
long.
Yeah, you better not look at them, otherwise your wallet is going to empty again. Their endless spells look. Some of the endless spells in not just this range, some of the others as well. They look good enough to be just actual units in armies.
Tell you what, Chief. I've bought 3. No, I bought the original Endless Spells, right? What's that box set called with the Endless Spells in?
I don't know.
Oh, you do.
Malign
Yeah,
something.
malign portent. I got that, and I've just finished painting all those Endless Spells. Really, really good fun to paint. I must admit, the only one I haven't painted is the Purple Sun. It's kind of a big, ugly-looking model, isn't it? That one.
But I really like this big skeleton for the Bone Reapers, and even if I'd had
Yeah.
no intention of playing Bone Reapers, I'd be tempted to get it and using that skeleton for something else. Sounds like a pretty good idea.
I'll tell you what, the Endless Spells boxes are brilliant, man. I bought the Gloomspike Gits one. That was wicked. I got the Nighthawk one, which was just really lovely to paint because they're big. They're not really finely detailed, so you can really have fun painting them. They don't take too long to do. So yeah, these look kind of cool, right?
So a couple of things from the chat. Fohammer said that when we announced that he was coming on the show, his phone crashed, which
Oh
makes
man,
sense because the press are going to start blowing you up once they find out that you're going to be on confirmed the #1 live wargaming show. It says it right there on the screen, so it can't be a lie.
yeah, Fohammer, you're gonna have to like make sure you've got a real powerful internet connection because
And
once
bring your A game as well.
definitely, man.
This is a
Definitely.
serious platform here. This could make or break your entire online career. It's safe to say.
Yeah, man. All right,
And
so they're the Endless Spells.
also from the chat,
Oh.
Radbat says that very crunchy feast, presumably referring to the Feast of Bones, sounds very, very crunchy. Yeah, can you imagine? It makes me think of the giants from the BFG. You know, the evil giants that just hang out, sitting there in the rocks all day, like crunching up people's bones.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but the concept of the box doesn't. I don't really get it. I mean, it's not really a feast for ogres, is it? Because ogres like meat.
Yeah, they like the
They
meat
don't like
from the
blood.
bones. Do ogres maybe get into the bones and take the juicy, succulent bone marrow out, or do they just take the meat,
But
the flesh off the bones and discard the bones for their pets?
there won't be any flesh because these are like thousands of years old dead corpses brought back to life,
Well,
right?
maybe
I
it'll
mean,
be like when they rediscover ancient grains. They'll be able to make some ancient flesh from the Bone Reapers.
there's just going to be no blood or sinews or anything, so it's kind of a bit odd, really. I always thought ogres liked a bit of meat on their table. You know what I'm saying? And
I'm
then
telling you now, the supermarkets are going to start stocking ancient flesh. Now that they've just heard me talking about that, it'll be like dodo meat.
yeah, it's a decent box set all in all, isn't it? It's a good start. But yeah, should we look at some of their models off the GW site then? Have you got them loaded up? Or
Yeah,
is that
we've been looking at some of them for a while now, and we've got here that some of their foot troops with big halberds. And you say foot troops, people think they're going to be just like man-size infantry, but they're probably about twice as tall as a man, aren't they? These things. They are
yeah,
hideously large.
yeah, they have like their heads spin round to reveal different kind of personalities or
I
something.
think they're bigger than Stormcast, aren't they? Are they closer to ogre size? You've got the box right there, haven't you?
Yeah, they're probably a bit taller than the ogres, to be fair. They're a bit too spindly for me, man. I like a bit of meat on my models. I can't imagine that the ogres would have too much trouble dispatching this crew.
Fohammer says go to Tesco, they already stock ancient meat. Wow, wow, wow. Skeleton Flower says they grind them down and make tons of bread. Yeah, you could make bread with finely ground bones. Would you want to do that with the magically infused bones that these bone reapers are presumably made of, though? Would that have some kind of terrible side effect? You put it in the oven and there's a scream, like an evil spirit comes like out the oven to attack you, something like that, presumably.
I mean, guys, did you hear about that story in the news where in Egypt they uncovered the like an ancient tomb from the pharaohs, and a couple of sort of fanatics opened it up, and there was some fluid left from the corpses, and they drank it, thinking that it would give them sort of, I don't know, some kind of positive properties.
That sounds like the plot for the next Forest of Rem adventure, doesn't it? Seeking out the ancient fluids in the pyramids. So now we're looking at a bit of a terrain piece here, and this is a big statue with little pillars around it, and piles of bones everywhere. And again, that's another one, like the Endless Spells, where even though I'm not really interested in this army as a whole, that's a piece I could see owning at some point and just having it on the table as a piece of terrain. Has it got 3 heads on the top of it there?
I really need to see what you're seeing, don't I? Let's see.
Well, I just assumed you were intimately familiar with all this stuff since you've had your ear to the ground the whole time and your finger on the pulse.
That is the Ossiarch terrain piece, is it not?
It is.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own terrain piece now, don't they?
Yeah.
I'd assume there's special rules if you get close to it in the game.
I mean, I think you'd be pretty disappointed because you'd rush up to this thing thinking those chests were full of gold, right? And then it's just skulls. It's a real anticlimax, really, isn't it?
It's like if Santa filled your stocking with human bones. Just a disappointing Christmas morning all round. And the next one, this is kind of mounted on... I hesitate to even call this a horse because it seems to have armor plates on its bones, like bone armor plates, which a horse presumably doesn't have. And a lot more bones than a horse, by the looks of it. So it's like a super horse.
Has it got 3 tails?
I can see at least 2 in this picture.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like they looked at a horse and thought, you know what, that's not sturdy enough to carry our skeletons into battle. Let's spruce it up a bit. And do they just craft all these beings from the bones of their enemies? Is that why they're all such bizarre creations? Do they gather up all the bones, stick them together, send them out into battle?
I think whoever developed these miniatures was a fan of He-Man, because he reminds me of Skeletor from He-Man, the cartoons, and also Transformers. It's like a mold between Skeletor and a Transformer.
Well,
it's a bit Meccano, isn't it?
The next one looks like... It's like one of the Skaven creatures with the weapons on the end of its arms, but it's a skeleton. And it's got like wrecking balls on the end of its wrists. What kind of madness was this? Who cooked up this nonsense?
That is just straight out of Andy and Remington shows. What the hell is that? You know,
it could easily be.
It's my least favourite model of the collection for sure.
I don't understand why it has that kind of animalistic head. I don't see what that brings to the table. It just makes it look a little bit out of place, if you ask me. If you put just a standard human skeleton head on there, I think it would look much more in line with the rest of the range.
I mean, this guy, how does he even eat? Because he's got like big balls for hands. I mean, he just shatter his face every time he put his hand to his mouth. But then I notice in the crotch area there is a skeleton with hands, so they must do all the sort of the dirty work.
Yeah, it would be quite handy if you don't have hands of your own to have a little skeleton down there to operate the machinery, as it were.
I mean, should we talk to Skeleton Flower? I mean, do you think Skeleton Flower will know? Will have an opinion on these guys because
Well, Skeleton Flower must be the skeleton expert in the field. You
Yeah.
can't call yourself that otherwise. Unless we have a flower special and that's more his expertise. But I'm going to assume that Skeleton Flower knows his skeletons. So I'm just going to sit here and see what he says in the chat before we move on any further. I want his thoughts on this. Let's see what else is going on in the chat while we wait for that.
There's some great stuff going on in the chat, guys. You really should watch this. If you're watching this after it's recorded, you're missing out here.
You're only getting half the experience.
Rafael Maj says there was no crocodile skull in Warhammer, so they made it. Just so you know, the crocodiles exist in Age of Sigmar. Mickey Jenver says, pretty sure these are 40k.
They've got a bit of that look to them.
It might just be the paint jobs, though, you know?
It could be. You often find that with a different paint job, things can look drastically different. But I think these is the amount of armor and the fact that it's not just a skull; it's some kind of a mechanical machinery going on alongside the skulls. It does give them a very Necron kind of feel. And there's some mounted ones as well, and these giant modified horses. These ones look a bit more like standard horses, not quite so much bonage going on with these ones.
Oh, okay, so that's the skeleton cavalry. Yeah, I mean, there's great motion in the new GW figures, right? I have to give them that. One of those horses at the top looks like it's got a beak. I love those. Like, are they ravens on the standard bearer?
It looks like it.
Nice, man. Yeah, I think these are my favourite ones.
So, yeah, I think they are just thrown together bones that they've collected. Is that the backstory of the faction? I'm going to assume that it is. Some evil necromancer probably collects up all the bones, super glues them together, a couple of staples in there, infuse them with magic, off you go onto the battlefield. Do your best.
The necromancer you're thinking of is the most famous one of all. It's Nagash, and this is his new elite army.
The Nagash comeback special.
Yeah, they're basically like skeleton gangsters. They go to towns and cities and stuff, and they say, right, well, if you give us, a tithe of bones every year, so instead of burying your dead, I want you to collect their bones. When we come round, we want all their bones. And if you don't do that, then we will annihilate you and take your bones.
Yeah, nice town you got here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
But they're into getting a dividend of bones, if you like. I think they've realised if they just destroy a whole town, well, they'll get a bunch of bones, but they won't be able to produce any more, will they? Because they'll all be dead. So what they do is they get a regular collection of bones through intimidation, basically.
Yeah, you can't just work your way through all the bones in a town too fast. You can't go on like the ultimate bone harvest because you'll have nothing for next year. Yeah, they should have called it Bone Harvest instead of Feast of Bones. That's a much better name.
Well, Andy, why won't you be getting these guys then?
I could give you two reasons. One, I don't like all the models. Some of them are really nice, some of them aren't. Another reason, if we're going to start playing Age of Sigmar again, which presumably we are, if we've decided to do this show, it would be a bit of a waste otherwise. After lockdown, obviously. I've already got the Stormcast, and surely I would have to continue with the Caradron Overlords once we got back into the swing of things on that game a bit. I don't think I could justify starting another one.
Yeah, definitely, man. We've got to get back on the horse with that.
And what about this huge... This is probably the centerpiece you're talking about. Is it? It's like a big statue with a big sword, and there's two smaller guys standing around him. He's got a big shield. He looks naked, in fact. Or maybe he's just got skin-coloured, like a... He's like got an Action Man kind of groin.
Yeah, I think that the he you're referring to is not He-Man, but Katakros. Katakros, Mortak of the Necropolis. He is an amazing model, right? And he's got his lieutenants and generals all by him. And if a model wants to challenge him, they have to get through all his generals one by one first before they face the final boss. That is Catacross.
And you wouldn't really like the job of that just little guy in front of him holding up a scroll, would you?
No, I mean, yeah, I think if you were one of those models, I think that's the one you would be, Andy. To be fair.
Well, that looks like the only one that's alive, or is that a skeleton as well?
There does look to be some meat on him, actually. It might just be armor.
Well, maybe the ogres aren't wasting their time after all. Maybe they can squeeze some meat out of that. And now we're back to your model. So let's just rest on this guy. As we go, I think it's time for some nerd confessions.
It is. Let me reach over to my guitar.
I believe the lyrics were something along the lines of, "What's your nerd confession, baby?"
Yeah. It did go like that somewhat. Right, you ready? You ready with your nerd confessions, everybody? Have you got one in mind, Andy? I hope so. What's your nerd confession, baby? I'd really like to know. What's your nerd confession? You can tell the Andy and Remington show. What's your nerd confession, baby? Yeah. What's your nerd confession, baby? Yeah. What's your nerd confession?
Okay, we need a studio version of that next. With extended lyrics, obviously. So, I will read out the first one here from Skeleton Flower. My confession is that when I bought a monolith of my Necrons as a teenager, it was missing an entire side of the model. I was so shy back then that I didn't want to complain, so bought a second one. I'm not sure if that's that high on the nerdometer. I think that's something different. I don't think that counts as a nerd thing, being shy. I think those are two separate attributes. What do you think?
Skeleton, I think you've got to build your confidence, man. You've got to speak for yourself. You've got to. I mean, you've come to the right place. You've made the first move. You've come to the Andy and Rem show. But like, would you do that again if it happened again?
Well, he did say he was a teenager at the time, so
yeah, all right, yeah,
quite a while ago. So maybe Skeleton has flowered into a more confident being as time has gone on, and you wouldn't be able to rip him off anymore with a shoddy three-sided monolith. Because you can imagine that if someone was shooting it at that thing into the side with no armor, you certainly wouldn't hear cries of, "You're hitting the armor, crowbar."
Bless you, Skeleton Flower. This is a growing process, isn't it? And like, that is a very honest confession. So Andy, what is your judgment as the Witchfinder General? Is it a blessing or is it an admonishment?
Sigmar's blessing upon you, child.
Skeleton Flower, you are now healed.
You may.
Well done, you.
You can remove the shame. We've deemed it not nerdly enough. And do we have any similar kind of tales where something's slightly wrong, but you're too polite to say anything about it? Maybe have you got a story like that?
Well, Radbat. Hello, Radbat. I have no idea what counts as a nerd confession, so unsure how to contribute. Well, we're talking about your nerdy Warhammer secrets that you wouldn't normally tell people. So, for example, I've just seen one. Sean Blake, nerd confession. I do all my list building in the bathroom on the John.
That does sound pretty nerdly to me. Although, exactly how would we rate that one? What would a non-nerd be doing while doing their business?
Reading a book or reading a newspaper or going through their Facebook feed or watching the Andy and Rem show, maybe.
Well, we don't need to think about that, but building an army list. I mean, how long does it take you to build an army list, and how long are you sitting there? That's what I want to know, because army list building can be quite an in-depth process.
I think we need some more info there.
And
Go on, my
does that
child.
mean you're building it with like pen and paper and you've got all these tools around? Or is it on your mobile device? And being very modern on one of the army building apps. That would be much quicker, so I could understand more if you're doing it that way. If it was pen and paper, sounds a bit cumbersome while doing your business, I would say.
Hmm.
So I think I'm ready to render some judgment.
Okay. Witchfinder General, what is your judgment?
I issue a mild admonishment. I think we're going to
Be
deafen the
careful.
audience by the end of this.
Just be careful. Even a mild admonishment from the Witchfinder General can have terrifying consequences.
Hey, have we got more? In fact, before we move on, you kind of skimmed over me turning the question back on you a minute ago. Have you ever been too polite to complain about something that was incorrect on a model that you've purchased? Some with the piece missing, maybe? Have you ever?
Yeah, I think with Finecast there was often a few bubbles in them or slight deficiencies in the molds. But me being nice, I just didn't say anything. I'm sure a lot of people would have took them back and got a replacement.
Yeah, if it was a
But
big company, I think I would definitely seek the parts again. One thing, it wasn't really due to and not wanting to deal with it. It was more a case of it was years later, and then I discovered there was a piece missing. I ordered one of the old dwarf stone throwers, the metal one, that looked like it was made of wood, oddly enough. And then they switched it to the metal one, but it was the wood-looking one, and the entire back piece of wood was gone. And I bought it on eBay, I think, but by the time I realised it was gone, it was like 5 years later when I finally got round to assembling it. So I thought it was a bit late to be demanding anything from the eBay seller at that point. So I ended up just having to make a wooden beam out of green stuff for it. And you can't really tell.
Turn into something creative. Well done. Mickey Genver says, here's a confession. I used to play all my War Dolly games with Mickey Prime. Brackets, she cheats. Who's Mickey Prime? Is that her alter ego or her imaginary friend? What say you, Witchfinder General? Is this normal behavior for a wargamer?
If we assume it's an imaginary friend that you've created for the sole purpose of wargaming, I think that pushes the nerd needle quite far around the old nerdometer, doesn't it? So, Mickey, I admonish you in the strongest possible terms. Okay. I think we need to work on some quieter sound effects for you for next time.
I thought that was suitably terrifying, though.
It
We've
was
got
quite
one
terrifying.
more confession. One more confession, even though there's two in the chat. I'm going to go with Radbat because you're new, I believe, and you deserve a voice, my friend. Your nerd confession is, I've never really played a miniature war game. I just help clean and paint others' models for their games.
How nerdly does that make someone? Is that really a nerd thing, or is that just a kind soul kind of thing? Surely someone at the top level of nerdtitude would be, as soon as they laid eyes on these miniatures, would be immediately pouring themselves into that world and would be hooked instantly. But someone who can, rather than being drawn in themselves, purely use their hobby powers for others' benefit. I don't know if that's really a nerd type thing.
How do you clean a model? Do you mean like removing the paint?
Or maybe removing the mold lines, perhaps?
Interesting, man. Interesting.
I don't know how nerdly that is. I don't think that's moving the needle too much.
I think you need these sort of people in life. They're sort of like the serfs, aren't they? That are just helping the lords of Warhammer,
The peasants.
the hobby well. Exactly. So, as the Witchfinder General, surely you're not going to admonish, those people in the game that are the backbone of the hobby.
You are free to go. There is not a trace of nerd about you.
There you go.
Okay,
the bell
is
of
that our final
Sigmar.
confession of the night?
That will be, yeah. But save them up. Put your nerd confession in the Andy and Remington Show's Facebook page. Even just go to Andy and Rem Show and put pictures of your models there for us to peruse and maybe feature on the show for next
Yes,
time.
because we're building up a stockpile. Because obviously, when you stop doing a show for a couple of years, for some reason the posts on the Facebook page dry up. I don't know why that would happen, but we're trying to get the activity brewing in there again. So if you've got any recent Warhammer-related painting projects that are complete, preferably, post them in there, and we'll go through and cast an analytical eye over them on one of our shows. A couple of painting experts like us, you can't really get a better opportunity to be praised or mercilessly mocked for your deficiencies, perhaps. I think it would be an honour for most. So, have you got a nerd confession before we close the show?
I was just going to go with the old favourite of licking the brush too much, yeah, that's my nerd confession. I think that's one we've all been guilty of. I did watch one episode of I watched every episode, but I watched an episode of Warhammer Weekly, and Vince Venturella knows what all these different paints are actually composed of, and he said licking your paintbrush could be highly toxic, actually. So
I thought you were going to say it could be highly beneficial for a minute there.
no, I've been doing it for years, and certain metallic paints are really, really bad for you. So, yeah, big up Vince Venturella and Thomas on Warhammer Weekly. They've been plugging our show this week.
Yeah, so there's the moral of that story is if you want a nice moist tip, do it the right way. Don't use your saliva to moisten that tip.
But it's so tempting, Andy, because you can control how moist the brush gets when it's on your tongue, whereas it's a lot more fiddlier, isn't it? When you're trying to poke it into.
Well, you can completely saturate it in the water pot and then just like dab off little bits of it on the tissue.
Exactly, it's the sign of a true craftsman, when they lick the brush.
Well, if you insist.
I don't think that's a confession that needs to be brought to the foot of the.
I don't think so. I think next time we'll get some of our own confessions in there as well, and we can let the audience rate them on the nerdometer. Okay, I think it's time to wrap this one up, isn't it? Unless you've got anything else you want to announce to the world before next week's show.
That's it. It's been an absolute pleasure working against you, Andy. Thank you very much.
And we're going to have more live Vermintide action, hopefully sometime this week. So you can look forward to that as well. Very exciting times.
Yes, sir.
And
so yeah, join us.
Yeah, don't forget to tune in same time next week. And hopefully we can actually keep this going for a while, build some momentum, build some steam. And then maybe when lockdown's over, we'll actually get some games in, so we'll have something to talk about on that front as well, because the Andy and Rem Show has always been the place to come for your in-depth rules analysis and statistical breakdowns, hasn't it?
Definitely, guys, and make sure you smash that like button, please, and
not beyond repair.
Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. The likes that we get are vital, because when people search for Age of Sigmar content, the more likes a channel has or a video has, the more likely it is to appear on people's feeds.
And on my channel, there is also a link to Mr. Remington's channel. You should go over there, comment on one of his videos, and tell him to bring back Remington's Pillow Talk. It's been in high demand for years now, and he just refuses to bring that series back. And I don't know why.
Definitely smash the like button, subscribe, help Andy channel.
Yeah, there's all the links in the description. There's our Facebook group down there, which is going to be swimming with activity after this, no doubt. There's Twitter. There's various ways that people can throw money at me if they want to part with their life savings in exchange for me keeping the red hot, sizzling, juicy, spicy, tasty, delicious, dishlicious ice cool, refreshing content flowing towards them, especially during lockdown when there's been at least one video every single day, which is an impressive feat, might I add.
Amazing, amazing. That's a true marathon, Andy. You're a long distance runner, aren't you?
I sure am, and I'm getting lots of painting done because of it as well.
Nice, man.
Which is nice. So, I think the only way to truly wrap up the episode is, first of all, we're going to say goodnight, and then we're going to play the intro as an outro. This may be the last time you see this version of the video because we're improving things every week, we're moving up technologically, and it may look drastically different next time. If not, then you'll know that I lazily didn't do it during the next 7 days. Okay, would you like to say goodnight, Mr. Remington, and then I will?
I'd say goodnight, and then I definitely will.
Good night out there, whatever you are.
What the hell is that? What the hell is
Video.
that?
No, stop! That was what the hell is that? No, let's get that in first, because that's entertaining stuff.
Proper stuff.
What the hell is that?
Redcon all the
What
way.
hell
Take
is
care,
that?
guys.
Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? No, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigma Speed or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangler squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington.